We alkalize to realize the body is the temple, water is the source of life. We breathe in life and then we synthesize. This liquid sun will free your glands and begin to decalcify. Peer through your third eye, see through the lies and give your body what it's missing. We dehydrated, and that's the human condition. But when you clean the body and leave the body, you set yourself up to receive the body. See, it's a sharp knife, that's the water of life. It's like a sword cutting parasites down the sides. It takes a certain kind of faith to know that you're divine. And if it comes from urethra, then it's alkaline. We serve in truth, and it don't matter how weird it really gets. It's the linchpin ascended masters to initiates. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. You had it inside this whole damn time.
Hey, it's Alkalise to Realise talk show. It's Fabian the Upgrade Man. Today we have an absolutely fantastic show. We have Devin Madgy on, aka Hermes. This is a show that we've really been looking forward to. So let's do it. Devin, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, brother.
Yeah, peace and love to you. Yeah, how is Devin?
Devin is good. Devin is feeling like this shift is moving more and more at an exponential rate. Yeah, I would say you probably share the same sentiment.
Definitely so. You know, things are moving really, really swiftly now. You know, when everything that we sort of seen and things that we have said are coming to fruition. So exciting times ahead, very much so. You know, no, actually this week we've been speaking a lot about the dead. You know, I think we could just kind of go straight into things really, and we kind of noticing a lot of a sort of deadness that we see within the AI construct. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, there's been this concept around for a few years about, you know, soulless beings, organic portals, non-player characters. There's many names for these beings, but essentially it's the idea that there's a finite number of game players here, of living souls, those who are able to rise above this construct versus everyone else who would be the masses or the 99% who are kind of the inverted consciousness of the game players. It's kind of like a magic mirror, right? So if you go to a magic mirror room at a fun house, you look in the mirror and it looks kind of like you, but it's distorted. So I would say the more we've increased our ability to find wholeness, the more artificial this realm looks.
Yeah.
You know, and it's nothing that can be logically explained. It's something quite intuitive, you know. But if we do want to use logic, we can use this distinction. So we have two roads we could take when we think about why aren't the masses waking up? Like, why aren't my friends, family, coworkers, even many people in the spiritual community, how come most people seem to be lacking in true awareness to gain a whole perspective? Well, one route we could take is give them the benefit of the doubt. Ascension, after all, might be this process that you have to consciously undertake. Obviously, we've read some things, we have had some divine experiences, we may have taken up meditation, eaten certain diets, and that is why we're propelled in this direction. So everyone else, if they only did what we did, they would get to the same spot. But then there's the other idea, which is that they actually don't have the capability to channel the awakening as we are. And in this distinction, I think there is the difference between a oneness, meaning a divine plan, everything is in perfect harmony all the time,
Yeah.
versus nihilism. So if we want to say there's very few people who are waking up now and the masses are asleep, wouldn't we then have to challenge the idea that this realm is a oneness? Because if everything was divinely orchestrated in that oneness, then obviously what awakening is happening now is as it was intended to happen, with what seems like the masses being left behind. And if we want to say, oh, no, my mother or my friend or my coworker, they just need to eat this way or read up on Gnosticism or pray or meditate, that's why. But that lends to the idea of nihilism by saying there's no orchestration here that has a specific timeline, a specific goal. And I would say you don't resonate with that nihilistic worldview.
It's in no way, shape, or form. It's like we were speaking earlier, and we were saying, I was talking about the H. You know, we were saying that being the number 8 for infinity, and obviously even Hyperborea is going to give us that same H. And I was saying at that point, when you've got that H there is this good, this overarching good nature, and then there's this which gets ignored, this kind of lower density where we have this heaven within and we have this hell within, and then both of them are kind of at loggerheads and at war with each other. But then obviously once we realize about this good nature, and then we can start to realize about this negative side, we get the 9. And we were saying earlier, once we realize that we can incorporate this negative side and allow it to be as a part of us, then we can become whole and then enter that 0 point. But then what we were saying is that we find that many are not able to do that in any way, shape, or form. It's something that they would want to fight against or not even be able to see it, which then leads us to kind of know that they are artificial within what they are. They are not actually presenting as a real true human avatar or a real soul should present itself, and they are not able to rise up, like I've been speaking lately this week about density, and density is dead, DE, which is the 4, not able to rise up out of that density because they are coming from an artificial AI construct. So what you're saying is absolutely perfectly spot on.
I would agree with your sentiments. The magnetic field that is the Earth, like we're on the magnetic field. So people say we're in a matrix, there's a grid system. Well, a magnetic field looks like a grid, and it has magnetics in it. It's the net of magnetics. And again, how come a magnetic field has a positive and negative charge? Well, like you just presented, Earth being the heart is at the center, and then we could personify the upper and below manifestations as heaven, hell, or the upper realms and the lower realms. But you know, we have these phrases, what goes up must come down. You know, that's because if you're on the pinball machine of polarity, you're not going to get anywhere. And so both of us have determined the first sign and the ultimate sign of a soulless being or AI consciousness manifested as a human is they cannot understand anything without that division. What's right, what's wrong, what is damned, what is righteous. And this is akin to like ones and zeros. Just it's a binary consciousness. It's algorithm, and this is becoming more and more apparent. And as we were saying, because I think many can relate to this, just because somebody presents themselves a certain way, all that glitters is not gold. That does not mean they are indeed what they're projecting. So the AI consciousness has a way of masking themselves in order to present a persona.
Yes.
So we see this obviously, people who identify with their careers, you know, I'm a doctor, I'm a salesman, I'm a CEO, or even as far as I'm a mother, I'm a father, you know, I'm a white man, I'm an Asian Hawaiian.
Yeah.
Like, these categorizations make no sense and they have no relevance in this journey of finding wholeness.
Yep.
And then we get to spiritual concepts that need to be bulldozed. Like, there is a right path, there's a wrong path.
Yes.
There's correct behavior, there's incorrect behavior. And it's not that there's not, I'm not at all saying there's not specific behaviors that one can undertake to increase wholeness. But when we're looking at everything through this binary lens, we're playing the checkerboard. Like, the checkerboard, the reason it's one of the biggest Masonic symbols, it's rubbed in our faces, is because that is the black and white polarity. As long as you pick a side, even if you think your side is righteous, you're playing the game.
Carry on.
And as we've seen, when there's a war between two groups, you know, all that is light, all that is dark, all that is the right political, all that is the left political. Honestly, does either group truly intend to increase awareness and gain a middle ground? No, because the point of having dogma, the point of creating polarity within oneself, and thus within what manifests as these groups, is the binary just wants to swing like a pendulum without rhyme or reason. Like, of course, I'm using the example of politics. There's a reason why nobody in politics has stood up and said, hey, why don't we take a little bit of your theory, a little bit of yours, we'll combine it, and then there'll be no more fighting between the parties. But we're dealing with dualism manifested. So Alice in Wonderland, if you have seen pretty much any movie shows her falling down the rabbit hole after she falls asleep. It's like her higher self falling asleep. She falls into the rabbit hole and she falls onto the checkerboard. And beforehand, in the Disney version, she's in quite a peaceful world. And now she's in Wonderland. She's in Shadowland. She is fractalized into duality itself. And even though it's interesting, there's a lot to see, there's a lot to experience. Progressively, Alice gets more and more fed up because she asks the Cheshire Cat, who acts as kind of like Hermes. The Cheshire Cat is like the guide to the liaison. And Alice says, you know, what's the right path to take? Again, she's split in duality. Like, I don't want to be around mad people. I just want to go the right path so I can see the Queen of Hearts. Cheshire Cat responds, well, every path here ends up the same place. And if you want to not be with mad people, too bad, because everyone here is mad.
See, and even when she's doing that, in Alice, she's wearing, it's white and blue that she's wearing. So when she's dropping down, I would associate that as she's coming down from what I would say is blue shift. I would associate that with blue shift, because obviously with finite matter, we're working with what I would call a transverse wave. So it's finite and it is dealing with matter, straight material, and it is constantly bouncing from red to blue, the polarity, good and bad, good and bad. So can sync with what you've just said there, because she's then dropping down, she's then coming in as blue, and she's descending into this kind of red riot, which is this not knowing what's going on, and then bouncing around on that. Everything Devin's just said, you know, is then bouncing around. She is on this checkered board. So then this is basically telling the whole picture with sun and moon, and then in being able to incorporate that internally with that both positive and negative pole. But what we're saying is, what we are finding is that there are many where that they are not able to integrate that and allow that to happen, even though we know that the frequencies are there, etc. So there is this issue where we find where there are beings that are not able to look from a perspective of wisdom, are not able to do that, or able to even reason. They don't even want to reason. What they want to do is to align strictly just with matter. And that in itself, like we were just saying, definition again is DE. So it's constantly defining things and then aligning. When you mention governments, etc., that would be having to align spirit with matter, wouldn't it? Really, to be able to turn around and say, well, no, let's just have a hug and talk about this, and let's go about how we feel about this, because it's then how we feel, and that's what we even see in truth communities, etc., where there is this kind of imbalance where people would rather go with, oh no, I want it to be this way. I'd rather do a protocol for this reason, rather than doing it for the right, rather than how you feel inside. Instead of that, you're doing it because I'm doing it because it's right to do this protocol, or I shouldn't do this one because it's wrong to do it. We're not able to sit and reason and actually go within ourselves and reason and do things for the right, how we feel within our core center. And what we are saying here is there are beings that are not able to do that, and they should be able to do that, because what we are saying is that is a micro macro within nature. So it's something that you should be able to incorporate within your being. So therefore, it has to be that you are aligned with an artificial construct. It has there is no way about it, and then that would make you then an NPC, a non-player character.
Indeed. And when we talk about an artificial construct, we're not necessarily saying we're literally in a computer simulation, because I feel like this theory has been taken by quantum physics as like, oh, perhaps we are the playthings of some higher beings. Ultimately, that actually is true, but it's a simulation of consciousness. So what I've determined, and perhaps you have too, is that all of these shadows, all of these AI beings who are temporary to the construct, they have no eternal presence like the game players.
Yeah.
They are the inverted aspects of ourselves played out in every form, like an algorithm spitting out every type of experience dualism can offer, and it's running like an automatic program so we can disconnect from it. Because if everything is a unified field, like if the collective consciousness has dualism within it, well, because we aren't that, we're just diverting from that unified state, like the Hyperborean state, the singularity. And when that happens, we must funnel into a construct where all of those pieces of ourselves are played out in front of our faces, and they are literally just running on autopilot. And that's why we call it purging, because purging is not only internal, it's also external. So why has culture, why is politics, why is the social sphere, why have race relations, gender relations, how come everything seems to have progressed in such a confusing way? Like, I'm pretty sure most of us, late 2000s, we just saw everything around us in the mainstream narrative just get so polarized and so unappealing to us. Like, it's almost like we have no choice but to pull away from these narratives, because nothing was interesting anymore. Everybody was fighting. Intelligence seemed to have gone down, and it's because the more the game players have collectively put themselves into a state in order to cross out duality. It's a process, but when we have collectively done that, the more it happens, the more our environment reflects to us all the aspects of ourselves we're leaving behind. But because there's no such thing as linear time in the way we know it, when we look at a soulless being or some type of event out there, like, I don't know, a feminist march against the masculine. These are events that just occurred. But if you zero in on them, it can appear that, well, this person has had childhood and, you know, they have their own interests. And how can you say this is an AI manifestation? Because this specific feminist march, it was organized by these two beings. And of course, they had parents and they had a childhood. But that's the facade of this place. And that's why it's Maya. Like, it's simply a veil. It's simply an illusion. Like, just because our five senses sense something doesn't mean it has eternal presence. And that's really what we're talking about now.
That is what I'm speaking about.
Ascension is breaking out of the construct. And in this process, now we're getting to the point where we're asking, okay, well, I know I'm eternal. I know I exist outside of here in a different, I guess, higher form. So that must mean all of the others are temporary. And for those watching who have never heard this or are struggling with this idea, we don't make this distinction between the game players and the soulless in order to attack, to accuse, to judge. That's not the game we're playing. It's a reasonable distinction to make in order to understand why this place won't wake up, why this place is so crazy. Because on our path, I think a lot of us have realized that whatever I say to my friends and family and my neighbors, it seems to go over their heads, and we can get distraught when we identify that, oh, that's just another human like me. And thus, when you identify with that, you identify with their worldviews being rooted in some sort of truth, when it's not. There is no truth in duality. There is just truth. One force against the other.
That is all that there is to it. There is nothing. So your true emotions, they reside outside of the construct. You know, they're not a part of the construct. And when you realize them, so that's when you're becoming self-realized, and we're able to do that in this construct. So then that enables us to become outside of that construct. So then we know the true emotion over the artificial emotion, because we know it exists. So if you take something like 9/11, for example, don't think you talk about, but the reason I mention that is because they are able to insert a program. And I say because I've been watching it. I watched that, and the AI beings they express excessive paranoid behavior. And that is not a true human response. It is not a true human response. So they are able to trigger that in there to them. You know how we've looked at how people, they always say about false flags and so on and so forth. The way I'm advancing on that now is because they know that these beings, they are aligned with an artificial construct. So they can be programmed very, very easily. And that is what we have been seeing. And then, so there are even in the truth communities, etc., where people align and actually will make big channels just about these external events that lead to nowhere. We've always said, you know, fear campaign and this and this and that. And it's because they're not able to align with the what I call the universal mind, which is the organic mind, the organic construct, which is going to be connected to the 0 point, is going to be connected to the emotional heart center. And because of that, that is what we have seen, this programming where we've not realized, but the beings around us, they are AI. So they are being programmed all the time. So an event such as that 9/11 was a program that is still running to this very day and creates like a ripple effect over what they call time, which doesn't exist anyway, but it creates like a ripple effect, which then leads to this excessive paranoia where people think that they're going to get a terrorist attack and so on. So it's led to the point where that it is normal for beings to be paranoid of other beings. I read a post about it today where what we noticed in the UK, where in the AI construct, the AI matrix, people think that they are getting ripped off by other human beings. To meet a human being that you do not know, to think that they have got some negative intention towards you, that they are going to somehow rob you, scam you, rip you off, or going to bomb you, or such as that is not a true human response. And this is what I've been saying lately, putting out to people. And then I'm noticing people in other communities, etc., as well, where people are easily aligning with responses that are not truly human, that are artificial, such as excessive paranoid behavior towards others that you don't even know. And those prove that construct, because it's born out of dualism anyway.
It's the difference. You're basically insinuating it's the difference between a collective consciousness and a hive mind. Like,
Yes.
Collective consciousness does not speak of I'm the same as you, and when we are in this process, we're trying to become pure, just like Fabian or just like Hermes. Like, that's not what it's about. There's actually a lot of creativity and individuality within that 0 point, but a hive mind needs to attach to these programs. And you, before this call, you made this distinction, which is really a fallacy between the right-hand path and the left-hand path. The right-hand path, which many truthers or occultists still speak of, is that of merging with a oneness, merging with the light of God, the all-knowing truth of the infinite. It's what New Agers would refer to as merging with Source. Then the left-hand path says, screw that. I'm going to become a God unto myself. I don't need to merge with anything. But the middle path says, wait a minute now. You don't have to forego individuality. You don't have to be a servant of God. You can take aspects of both and merge it. And that's spirit and matter. And that's probably why we came here, to fall into the depths of a realm where everything is inverted. And therefore, we get to, as you said, take the blue shift and the red shift. And what the result is going to be is just godlike in its truest sense, not godlike in a hierarchy, not godlike trying to impose power on anything. It's working with an infinite manifestation within a collective field.
Yes, that is exactly what you hit the nail straight on the head, and that is what has been coming to me of late. Is that constantly toying with the concept, but it's also happening within. So we can see that on this side of ascending, right, merging the left and right hand path together, what that does is we become a whole new enlightened being by merging these two, the masculine and feminine, red and blue. By merging them together, it is that the mind then accessing that universal mind of the absolute to reach a state of perfection in the physical.
Amen, brother. Yeah, it's the best of both worlds as I'm seeing it now.
You're right. That's right. It is.
When we think of the higher realms, and I've actually had some experiences, and they're very interesting. They're quite whimsical. They're very fun, but there's changeability everywhere, because the further away you get from matter, the less solidified and defined things get. So source energy, or Brahma, breaks apart into many, many pieces, and now you get the game players. But what are we going to do with that? Well, I would say we can maintain individuality and take that infinite power of source and bring it down. But in order to do that, I mean, it takes a little bit of work, so this isn't an accident. And of course, the snake in the Garden of Eden tale, which represents wisdom, and also represents the mother goddess Lilith, has been depicted as the snake. And of course, Lilith is one of the 1,000 names for the mother goddess. Sophia, Kali, And so this act of funneling into Wonderland is the result of us deciding to gain more wisdom through dividing ourselves. It's the same thing as what Odin did, Odin plucked out one of his eyes in order to gain wisdom by drinking from a well called the Well of Urt.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
the keeper of the well, named Mimir,
The mother
said,
goddess.
well, if you would like a drink, you're going to have to gouge out one of your eyes. And to many of us, if we thought of this in human terms, that's terrifying. Why would I gouge out an eye? What the story doesn't say is that one of his eyes is replaced after it's lost. Because why does the Illuminati go like this to us? They're not mocking us. They're reflecting back to us the decision we made to be cut off from that integrated space so we can expand. And of course, we ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
You know why? Well, it's not because good and evil really exist, because after all, in Eden, that was a state of wholeness. But if you can imagine having infinite power but no direction, we could say, well, Adam and Eve in this allegory, not literally, were sort of immature. And when I observe a lot of the tales of the Norse gods, even the Egyptian gods and the Greek gods, I see these as stories of what the living souls were, how we were inhabiting our power before we entered this construct. If you think about it, there's not much suffering in these tales. Like, yeah, there's some turmoil, but it's because all of the gods are using their power to steal things from each other, and they steal each other's mistresses. And if you can imagine having infinite manifestation without true direction, then you end up becoming reckless. So in order to expand, you have to forget that power and remember. And that's why in the tale of Odin's Eye, the well keeper Mimir, that is a Norse word which literally is translated as the rememberer.
Yeah. Remember, exactly, to remember. And he also drinks as well from the womb of the mother goddess to gain supremacy at the same time as well, which I think leading about, you know, because I'm with the Aedurian, etc. And then 4 as well, he drinks the blood of a giantess, and then you've got the golden emperor, and you know, all of these things all interconnect together, and they're all talking about us, you know, accessing our supreme state of being. I was just actually trying to find a slide that I had, which was just going to really sort of solidify what you were saying about the serpent being the wisdom. And within Gnosticism anyway, we would say that serpent is called up 3.5 turns, and she is the divine mother. That is what she is, and she resides in redshift. Yeah, and she has to be coaxed out of redshift, and that can be done obviously with sexual transmutation, you know, through sex magic, etc., between both masculine and feminine coming together to raise that sexual energy upwards, yeah, to order to become self-realized in the physical. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize on that point when you were saying about the serpent being wisdom. So that's why I love the fact that you've come on here today also, because we're in sync, because that is what I teach. People that watch this will have heard me saying those exact words. So there was a symbol I was just jitting around, just looking for to kind of solidify what you were saying. But carry on, brother. It's brilliant.
Beautiful. Yeah, these symbols can mean many things. So we're not only talking about wisdom and a snake, we're talking about the sine wave, right? That's what a snake looks like. And the sine wave is the sin wave, right? We were born into sin. We were born into the ebb and flow, which is the samsaric wheel of birth and death, good and evil, this and that, right and wrong. Like, it's all related. These manifestations are inseparable. And of course, if you follow my work, or even other flat earthers' work, you know that this realm is encased in a toroidal field. And I dare anybody to cut open an apple. What do you see? You see a toroidal field. And it never states we ate from the apple, but that's the common interpretation of this tale. Every time we see a depiction of Adam and Eve in any form, they're always eating an apple. Well, it's because we have funneled into a toroidal magnetic field. I call it the toroidal torment. And it's purgatory, because we're coming here to shed all of our BS. And this is the simple explanation for soulless beings, because somebody might hear this concept and say, oh, okay, so you're saying there's like a central hub that is generating soulless beings to fuck with the game players, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It's like, well, it's like we said, these are just automatic orchestrations, and they're carrying a specific function and therefore a specific reality in order to cancel out that reality. Because once this ascension happens, there's this false idea that, well, the chosen ones are going to leave and everyone else will be here. But the point is, the net of magnetics has caught all of this, and now it will dissolve.
It will dissolve.
It's the psychological.
Yes.
Carl Jung said this very thing, and most psychologists agree with this. So this isn't a bunch of spiritual who.
Yeah. Red book.
If you remain undivided within oneself, meaning you don't have a distinction between the parts of yourself that need to be let go and that which you want to keep, that must divide itself outside of you, and all of your sub and unconscious aspects must play themselves out like a drama. So it's that simple hermetic rule: as within, so without. And that is why you are never a victim. Every circumstance is always for your benefit, because if the drama didn't play out either internally or externally, you wouldn't know. So this also lends to the idea of what about your family and friends? Like people you've been connected with for a while, and the more we've awakened, it's like you feel a little distant from them. There's just an incoherence. Why is that? Well, how I've been interpreting it is your family carries the same DNA as you, but that doesn't mean they're linked on the same journey. In fact, I would say your friends and family actually display the parts of yourself that you aren't, right? So thank God, thank Goddess, thank yourself that the DNA has funneled into specific existences. And those imbalances are just being fleshed out. And this is such a simple concept, but it hasn't been spoken of in ancient texts. A lot of spiritualists are, and even occultists are still into what the hard texts say. What do the traditions say? If this isn't ancient wisdom, then it can't be carried over. The problem is most of this ancient wisdom was carried into the age of Pisces, the age of duality. It's two fish with their tail ties together, swimming in opposite directions. And this is why, up until very recently, all that was divine was considered to be found in mystery schools, in scriptures, in becoming an adept of a specific society or tradition. After all, it was always said, if you want to become a monk, if you want to attain what the Buddha attained, get to work, start meditating. And right now we're seeing a diversion from that, because at this point, I would say just based on our short interaction, you are no longer attached to any of these texts. You use them initially to spring yourself into
as a guide,
knowing. But now your wisdom comes from that 0 point.
Exactly. That is where it is all coming from. So then the information, that everything is being downloaded straight from that point of knowing infinity, right? So I just want to say, when you touched on the family, because then going forward, people that listen to this experiences some souls that are probably coming up that have not as advanced as this. Family is what is familiar to you as well. So you could be, like we were saying, in an AI construct, in a family of people, and they are totally different to you. You could meet a soul, and they are going to be a reflection of more of what you are. So the word family is familiar. So it's whatever really is going to be familiar to you. And then also, a lot of occultists are still stuck. It is like, again, because of the illusion of dualism, because of the illusion of time, getting stuck with text that isn't relevant to this particular moment now. So it doesn't the people that you are looking at, because of the wave, they may have been coming in at a point where their consciousness surrounding them was much lower anyway. So therefore, now we have to take that power back by going with, when we become self-realized and we're coming from that 0 point, then like we are knowing that knowledge is coming from the holes of a mentee. It's like if I read Thoth now and I go on there, he's going to be saying some of the stuff. I was looking at it only this morning. He's going to be talking about magnetism, where I speak about a plane of dielectric plane of inertia, and through that stillness, being able to release a force in motion, and that is magnetism running directly through your veins, yeah, which is etheric, giving you that higher form of consciousness. You work with a higher energy. But so that is coming from that 0 point in any case. But then somebody like Thoth could say that, but I've already acknowledged that within the core of who we are, which is exactly what you just said.
Of course, brother. It's not an idea. It's not a belief. That's the distinction. Yes. If we want to put it plainly, a living soul has intuition.
Yes.
An AI manifestation has belief. And it's interesting that you just brought up the halls of a mentee. I want to read a quick passage from the Emerald Tablets.
That's what I was going to do. Go on, brother. Please do that.
Yeah.
I was going to do that same thing.
Okay. Deep in Earth's heart, essentially, lie the halls of a mentee, far beneath the islands of sunken Atlantis, halls of the dead and halls of the living, bathed in the infinite all. Deep in the halls of life grew a flower, flaming, expanding, driving backward the night. Now, this is interesting.
Yeah.
There, time after time, placed they their first created bodies so that they might be filled with the spirit of life. Again, we're getting into the idea that we have higher forms. The game players are holographically funneled into here. There in the circle, from eon to eon, sit the great masters, living a life not known among men or among the soulless beings. There in the halls of life, they lie sleeping.
Yes, Christ.
Free flows their soul through the bodies of men. But again, they're not men.
They're not men.
Time after time, while their bodies lie sleeping,
immortal,
incarnate they in the bodies of men, teaching and guiding onward and upward out of the darkness into the light.
Getting it out. That is exactly. And then when we have metaphysical experience as a soul, and then we know that is exactly who we are, and that is exactly what we are dealing with, because we are that is the reality that we are experiencing. That's another reason why we want to have this talk, because when you say this, Devin, and other people, I can back it up. We are not reading it, we are experiencing it and knowing it from within our core and getting direct confirmation of what we already know to be. And I was going to read a different chapter from that without us even speaking about it. We didn't say that we was going to do that. And that is what I have on this other screen here, where I was just talking about it. And then he goes into talking about that, the light and the dark, and incorporating the light and the dark. And that, we're talking about something 36,000 year old, right? 3 + 6 is 9. What more?
And of course the terms are a little different. They don't have the words like holographic or projection, but essentially it's the same thing. Do you want to read that passage?
Yeah, I can pull it up. I'll get it up here. Give me a second.
And while you're pulling it up, I just want to say it really lends to this truth that because we're able to funnel this awakening through us, it's because we have other forms that are already connected to the infinite. If everything is a fractal within a fractal, then obviously the wisdom you're attaining is coming from a point that you can't perceive in full yet, but you can feel it. And it's interesting, we call this process awakening. And of course, Thoth says, while their bodies lie sleeping. And of course, we called it the fall of man when we left Eden. So is it that crazy to say we have higher forms sleeping, waiting for the full singularity?
It's not, because I'm going to read this now, and other people that you know, follow my work and see my work, watch my work, will probably be quite astounded to hear these words now after hearing what we speak about and the presentation things that we say. So I'll do that now. I'll just read this passage here. So it says, darkness and light are both of one nature, different only in seeming, for each arose from the source of all. Darkness is disorder, light is order. Darkness transmuted is light. I always say that light, darkness is a light, is light of the light. This, my children, your purpose is being transmutation of darkness to light. Hear ye now of the mystery of nature, the relations of life to the earth where it dwells. Know ye are threefold in nature, physical, astral, and mental in one. The threefold. Three are the qualities of each of the natures. Nine in all. As above, so below. Right. In the physical are these channels, the blood, which moves in vertical motion, the blood, right, reacting on the heart to continue its beating. Magnetism, which moves through the vein nerve, which moves through the nerve paths, carries of energies to all cells and tissues. Acacia, which flows through channels, subtle yet physical, completing the channels. Both.
Plain as day. And why are they called the emerald tablets? You know, again, this lends to that aurora borealis energy.
Can I tell you one thing? When I was, I've spoken this before as well. I read a book many years ago when I was about 18 years of age. It was written by a guy called Dr. Malachi Young. Nothing to do with what we're doing now, but he was enlightened at that point. The gentleman is a Mason, though, however, but many people did follow him. And he did say that there would be a green light. He written in that book, it said that Enishites will receive the green light. The book was called The Holy Tabernacle. It can be researched and found. And I heard those words in 1999, not realizing. And then when you are doing your work later on down the line, I hear you saying the same thing. So we know that time doesn't exist. And through this talk, we know it's more confirmation of what is to come around the corner and who we are projecting from that center point. So it's just absolutely phenomenal and so exciting, you know, yet mesmerizing to be self-realized in this physical moment.
It's beautiful because most of us, if not all of us, have felt completely lost and disconnected.
Yeah.
A lot of us have had traumas and events happen in our lives that seemed hopeless. And of course, without knowing about this process, it's just felt like an uncaring universe we crashed into, or I guess we evolved from monkeys when some of us still believed in evolution.
Yeah.
And yet, knowing about this aurora borealis, it's not only because it's a pretty light, but it absolutely is. It's also because this is a placeholder for our inevitable return. So, of course, we have the heart chakra, which is the emerald or green color. And again, Earth is the heart. But how come it's called Earth? Well, it's because the heart itself was torn into the above and the below, into the positive and the negative. So going back to the heart is merging back with this emerald energy. Now, if you just look at the toroidal field, I have many images of this in my videos. If you just look at the toroidal field, the toroidal net, it is compressing the emerald energy at the center. It's being contained.
Yeah.
And what does this mean? Well, it's a metaphor, but it's also a literal thing. It's that in this Hyperborean place, our original selves, who are endlessly connected to the heart, you can't even cut off the connection.
Oh, yeah, it's constant.
It's constant. It's unwavering.
Yeah.
And so if we're going to holographically project ourselves into the wheel of time, into an AI construct in order to purge that which we do not want, then the heart energy can't come with us. The whole point is the heart is being torn apart. And once again, if you look at the toroidal field, it's compressed at the center. However, the above and below, it's
there's a pull and a pull. Yeah, there's a pull and a pull. Yeah,
it's being pulled, right? And so when I won't go into it too much, but I had a very sacred experience with this emerald energy, and when it came, I wasn't even asking, oh, what is this? Oh, that's weird. It was instantly, that's what I've been losing. That's what I've been missing. That's why I felt in such turmoil here. But once again, this is the construct of duality. So until the conscious and unconscious fully merge, we're not going to be granted passing into that space. However, this does not mean we can screw up this process. I think both of us might be in the minority when we say this process, it's automatic. In retrospect, you already know the process you've undergone. Yes, Nas Book of the Resurrection.
That's what it's like. That's what it's all about. It's that, light in the dark. Carry on.
It's a process that can't be stopped. And so when we hear people speak of splitting off on a particular timeline, or a lot of New Agers talk about how to be a part of the coming ascension, they don't know what they're talking about. And a lot of them actually reveal themselves to be AI in nature, because as a living soul, you cannot screw up this process. It's your process of purging. It's looked different for everyone, but ultimately it all ends up in singularity. So the end has all the letters for Eden. The end is really a new beginning.
There is never an end. It has to be a new beginning. Has to be.
And of course, reincarnation is only here when we are torn from the infinite, torn from the singularity point.
It is.
Think about it.
Yeah, that's right.
If you have a trauma in this life, like a really bad trauma in childhood, oftentimes the mind will cross it out and revisit it at a later date. So we've heard many times of rape victims who remember what happened when they're in their teens or 20s, sometimes later, and this can happen with any sort of trauma. So this is a safeguard in place that the spirit has, so you can carry on with your mission without having something plague you. And when you can deal with it, it comes back at you. So that coming back is what we call karma.
I agree totally. That is exactly what happens. Because even in Gnosticism as well, that is how we would look at getting wrapped up, we would call wrapped up in a Luciferian agenda, because what's happening is Lucifer, a deception of light, you are getting encased within the material, within matter. So all of the material things that you buy into, if you're a soul, an AI being will just align with matter. If they get sick, the first thing that they would do is start buying more material. They go, oh, I've got cancer or something, so let's buy as much stuff as I can before I leave here. Let's align with as much matter as possible. So by aligning with matter and never ever incorporating the spirit is going to create you're going to keep bouncing back. So you're creating a scenario where you have to continually restart. You have to reincarnate. You have to bounce back anyway.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because reincarnation is not an eternal process. It has to end. You know, if we focus on all of the old world texts, it seems like only a few achieve moksha, like the Buddha gets out of that wheel, and maybe if you're lucky and do the right things, you'll achieve that too.
Right, wheel. Yeah.
But the game players come here together, we leave together. We are a collective consciousness. So the work you've done, it bounces into my sphere. The work I do, it bounces into yours. Just this conversation alone, we're spellcasting our way into
All
the
the time.
singularity. Make no mistake about it.
Every time. With the E. We're using the Ethernet to do it.
Every time.
Every
So
time.
there was this idea within the truther community for a while that maybe when we died, there was a light trap. There was some archonic presence which would suck us up, and that's why we forget our memories.
False light.
Knowing what we know about trauma, well, it's actually a gift that we don't remember our past lives, because in fact, all of us have played many roles, and a lot of those roles we probably would feel tormented by.
Embarrassed about it. Yeah.
We kept them. However, we revisit them later when something seems to go awry, and we're like, oh, why did that happen? And oh, karma. I did something. I created some imbalance. You can't go to one polarity without bouncing back to the other. And the fact that we're getting to this realization now, like truly getting to it, not just as an idea, means we are so close to breaking out of this wheel. In fact, I know this is our last incarnation here. There's nothing more to flesh out.
There's nothing left. Once you are manifesting an X, Y, and Z in the physical, creating forms of magic, etc., so on, so to speak, we have to go now, because we are too much light is happening. I don't like to say emitted, glowing. You have too much light for this sort of construct. So we have to ascend out of it now, because there are people that don't even understand, don't have the transcendental, I call it, intelligence to understand what is being said. Therefore, it's the souls at this particular point now, with this level of enlightenment now, this level of transcendental spiritual intelligence, we are heading for higher planes now. We have to, because we have outgrown this particular, as you say, this net. No, we have to, and that is where we are at. We are right on the cusp, and I feel it in this conversation that we are just right there now.
It's a paradox that we never actually left the original forms of ourselves. It's like a yo-yo.
Yeah, never left.
The yo-yo has to come back up.
It has to.
And of course, you mentioned earlier, the AI are obsessed with matter. When there's a problem, they always go towards the external solution. The holy trinity of money, food, and sex is all we see in this matrix. I don't care what mask you put on it, what labels, it ultimately has become all about feeding the belly, feeding the lower self, or those lower chakras.
There it is.
And accumulating. It's the reptilian complex.
It's that. We both speak about it. We see the same thing. It's weird and crazy. So who we are. Carry on, brother.
And this is a diversion. It's a perversion. And I think most of us who have woken up, we look around us and we say, oh my God, there's so many eateries and bars. And, what do we do with this space of earth? We fuck, we eat, we drink, and we accumulate. For what? And it's not just an idea. Like, one cannot say, oh, well, he prefers this and this is how he lives. Why does he live that way? Why can he only find pleasure in matter? And it's because he is a magic mirror projection, right? Again, we use the analogy of going into a funhouse. When I say everything is yourself, I'm not literally saying the other person is you at the same time. I'm saying they're the aspects of your collective consciousness or individual consciousness, which has to be worked out as a binary robotic type existence.
It has to happen. That is a part of that, and that is why we come here to experience. But we are looking. See, people. I always say that we don't realize, if you're coming from the perspective of an immortal being, an immortal mind, that then they would want to have an experience like this. Because people say, why would anybody want to live in hell on earth in this type of scenario? So because that's because you're looking at it from your mundane mind perspective. You wouldn't want to experience, but a being coming from a state of perfection, from an immortal perspective, this type of experience, you would want to, it's to experience fragmentation is a mega learning curve, just to experience this level of fragmentation. So to be able to pull it all into one as whole again would, like you have just said, we never actually left, but we are ready now because we have finished this experience, because we are ready now to go to the next level now.
It's one of the most amazing journeys ever undertaken by this particular soul group, because we thought this whole time the fire was going to burn us. No. The fire is going to burn away that which you don't require. That's what's interesting. A lot of us have had dark nights of the soul. A lot of us have had times, I've had many, you've seen them, where you're buried in the depths of despair. You're confused. You don't know your next move. But ultimately, I think I can speak for both of us. Like, I look back and I'm like, it's funny.
Yeah,
it's funny. What seemed to pull you down, it's a universe of paradoxes. What seemed to pull you down actually strengthens you. And we need some darkness to transmute. And transmutation is fun. And if we want to look at it in 3D terms, most mountaineers climb because it feels good when they stop. That's a quote I remember reading in a sports magazine.
Yeah.
The same concept as, if you're lost in the woods for a while, then all of a sudden you find your way back home and there's a hot meal ready. Oh boy, you are grateful for that. And in fact, you'll probably give your mother a big fat kiss. You'll pet the cat. You'll be cleaning up.
Yeah.
So this experience can be many things all at once. We can't just sum it up and say we just decided to undergo an experiment. This is absolutely an experiment, because what else are we going to do? We are source consciousness. We're immortal, okay? That's what we do. We funnel into constructs. We lift ourselves out of them. And it's a game of sorts, but it's also because imbalance had to be fleshed out. It's also because we had to expand ourselves, and expansion can only occur when you forget who you are. It's that age-old idea. If you have absence within a relationship, the heart grows fonder.
See, what you just said there, okay, carry on and I'll jump in.
I was just going to end with saying, you think you're alone, but in that word alone is all one.
All one. In the very word. And I was going to just say, you touched on experiment there, you touched on experience, and I did a post last week and I was looking at when you become sort of more less dense, more lighter, as we are, because we are within the self, with the 0 point. Even in certain dreams, there's always that mirror that wants to reflect back at you. So we are having this, projecting this from our immortal self. So we are constantly having these experiences where it will, even things that you haven't purged probably in the physical. So you may have scenarios in your life where jealousy issues and such and such on, they play out in your dream state, and the astral in your dream state, they can play back to you so that you have to relive them again because you didn't address it properly in the physical. So in your dream state, you can still have that experience. And then you mentioned experimenting. So there's experimentation going on, right? And then expanding. But all these are stemming from E. Electricity stems from E, and E is the 5th letter. Yeah. So then what we are doing is we are using those. We're using earth, wind, the earth, air, water. Yeah. The 4 material matter elements, and then you incorporate the 5th, which is that 5, which is that ether. And then that is going to give you that is when you can traverse the physical. Yeah. And then that is going to give you that experience. And then this is when the greatest love story that there is, before we finish this, is happening within. And that is you remembering who you are and becoming self-realized and realigning that heaven and hell within you to find that center point, to find that peace within the core of who you are. So it's just so amazing. I just picked up on that. You just mentioned a lot of ease there, and it was just recently I was looking at the ease and the word the experience, having to experience reality and experience physicality. And you can see within the higher mind, within the core of self, that nobody gets away with anything, right? So in the end, all experience has to be played out, and all emotion to do with that has to be either purged out and has to be dealt with in order that we can rise ourselves upwards to those higher planes.
Indeed, brother. And it's not necessarily something you have to logically undertake. Like when we didn't even know about this awakening, we were purging before this incarnation. This is an ongoing process. So it's foolproof. You just said experience. Well, we're Xing and we're spearing all of the sequences of our experience. So when we take into account that our dreams are,
brilliant,
they're projecting that which we're not resolving consciously, and it's playing out in the astral. Well, to me, that sounds like a foolproof method of resolving oneself. It's like even if none of us consciously undertook anything, it would all resolve itself. Like you're not in your dreams before a dream writing down, okay, I'm going to resolve an issue I have with my girlfriend or a past childhood trauma. It just happens, and you might wake up and not even remember the dream. You might not know anything happened.
That is exactly how it is, you see? And you may not even know. So everything is experience. So it has to play out. All these things have to play out. So everything is happening because as we know, because it's supposed to happen in this way, you know? So then therefore, what do we do? We just be. we just be. But that, like going back to the very beginning, the AI cannot just allow things to just be, you know, can't live and let live, you know. That just isn't something that they do, because it has to be good, it's got to be bad, it's got to be this, it's got to be that, you know. So as we come towards the end of this talk now, which is what I've been saying recently as well, if a soul is speaking this to you out into the ether, that means that it is happening, you know. So therefore, when we are speaking what we have spoken about in this talk, we know for a stone cold fact that everything is playing out just as we have been saying it is all along, right from I think even you were saying the other day, something the other day about our childhood, etc., and you looked at the reality and thought, this is weird. When somebody's like dragging you up at 6 o'clock in the morning and making you go to somewhere that you call a public school or whatever it may be, but you know within your core that they are denying your feelings. The way you feel has been denied all the way through. So then when we come to a point at this point now, and then we can still see that, but then expound upon it to the point where we can identify through knowing, identify that this is happening, that beings are not able to align with the core of who they are, then that in itself is the core of truth, because we are giving an expression, we are expressing that's which we've experienced right from the very beginning. So this isn't coming from a book, it's gnosis. That's what I'd like people to know when they listen to this talk, that what's actually happening is we are giving gnosis, and there is two beings that are giving very similar gnosis over a period. So therefore, it has to be looked upon, you know, and listened to, because it is the core of truth, is what is being spoken here.
Beautiful.
Yes.
You know, and once again, we have left the age of externalization. So even in a lot of the Gnostic texts, there's still this misunderstanding that the so-called divine beings are outside of us, right? So when most people translate the Gnostic text, you come across the idea of the archons and the demiurge. Well, it's never specifically stated who the demiurge is. All it says is he is a snake-like being with a lion's Yaldabaoth, and apparently he is a creation of Sophia. But hold on a second. If he came from Sophia, isn't it reasonable to say he is Sophia's shadow? That needs to be worked out. And because we're talking in hyperdimensional terms, sure, the demiurge manifests, I guess, in a more macrocosmic way. So I determined the demiurge is not some being existing in the clouds wanting to smite everybody and imprison this realm. Rather, it is this realm itself. It is materiality itself that has to be transmuted.
Let me just confirm that. I'd like to confirm that with you as well, because I've heard you say it before. I can confirm that because with the Dogon, that is, they are not Gnostic, but they're coming from the exact same, cosmology. So what they were saying is the jackal came first, and then Mama Amma, because the jackal came first, came to rectify the jackal because it was imperfect, it was imperfection. So that is the shadow. So what you're saying, and not just to agree with what you're saying because we're on here, that is right. That is right. And that is how the Gnostic, that is how that should be looked upon. The Gnostic story, I like to use the word story, that is how it's looked upon. It is our story. It is our fall as well. Not just Sophia's external.
Indeed.
Internal.
And if you recall, Sophia didn't leave the pleroma. Sophia let out an emanation, Sophia Achamoth. That is the Sophia that got entangled. So is she here or is she there?
Well, this is the thing, you see, and then that's when you have the Lilith. I watched 4 actually recently, and then the character that they used was his daughter, Odin's daughter, that he didn't know about, but really it was Lilith that was coming back, and she was dressed exactly the same as Maleficent, exactly the same, the black and the green again. So then we know what I'm looking at the minute is she is mischievous at the same time as well down here, because she has to play out her own struggles and her own shadows as well at the same time too. And that is what we see down here as well. So that is what there is. This is all a game. That's how I'm seeing this whole thing is a game as well. So the mother, she does play tricks upon us. She is mischievous at the same time as well. But that teaches us.
The mama plays tricks in the Matrix. But like you said, her story, in a sense, is our story and vice versa. So oftentimes when we're talking about gods and goddesses, we look at all of it through the lens of a monotheistic perspective, where God or a goddess is high in the heavens and we are the puny humans, and I guess have more divinity than us. But if we think in hyperdimensional terms, when a higher entity or an other dimensional entity out of the confines of matter wants to have children, let's say, they emanate. It's not like they populate like here on Earth. And those emanations are one and the same, but also distinct. So how I look at it is we are the mother goddess fractalized in forms. We are her children. And perhaps this is why the word matrix comes from the old French word matrice, which means womb. And then, of course, that matrice comes from the Latin mater, meaning mother. So we have this connection between matter, mother, and a womb. So are we being cultivated in order to release that which we don't need so we can split away from this other force. Maybe that's how cultivation of new existences or new souls occurs outside of this realm. And of course, Maleficent, as I've said many times, represents the mother goddess. And in the Maleficent movies, Aurora is her godmother. Or, I'm sorry, Aurora is her godchild. So Maleficent takes on the role of Aurora's godmother, and of course, Aurora has to do with the Aurora Borealis.
Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting because lately, almost every movie that's come out, in the US at least, has to do with the end. And some of them have to do with the mother goddess destroying. The new Maleficent coming out in October is all about the mother goddess destroying the human realm, but keeping open and active the Hyperborean realm, or what they call the Moors. It's the sacred forest of the fairies, and there's plenty of magic there. There's no turmoil. And the mother goddess oftentimes is depicted with horns.
I was just going to mention the fact that Maleficent, they will show her with the horns, but at the same time, you could also say, you see, this is Pan again as well, and then Pan with on the patriarchal side as well. So you could also spin it with that too as well, because they like to do that as well at the same time. But I know you may be coming from a different angle with it, but I know as well with the horns, you know, associating that with Pan, and then obviously with a lot of the ancients, they always used to venerate the bee and the bull, to venerate the bull. And then obviously the Egyptian god, I think it was Min, which I've got down here, would be symbolized by that erect penis as well. So I know that also that when I see that on Maleficent as well, there is also that side of the mischievousness, because I call them her unruly children. If you go with the demiurge type thing with the archons, down here there are some what you could call unruly children, and what they want to do is generally to try and stab a knife through the heart, because they are imbalanced, masculine imbalanced, and therefore that is the way that they operate in. This is also then sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and the self-gratification of the ego is that density drowning, pulling downwards on the 4, which is the D. So that's where, when you said that, and also that was what came into my mind, I was just going to talk about that side of things, because they have Maleficent with the horns. I don't know if you may have been saying something different to that though.
Well, you mentioned the bull, and another name for bull is a Taurus.
Yes.
And another name for the toroidal field is a Taurus field. And of course, that is perhaps where we get torn and torment.
But the hyperbole. Yeah, because then you've got the masculine and feminine of that toroidal field. Like some people would say that the hyperboloid, the center point, is then the masculine. So then that is the phallic side of it. So then they are venerating a masculine deity Pan as the toroidal field, using the bull on that side of things. So it's like that area is pretty much right, because we know that we're working with both masculine and feminine force here.
Of course, and there's been a lot of veneration for the toroidal field. That's where we get the word Torah from, right? And that is the monotheistic tradition of suffering, of sadism and masochism. The 10 Commandments themselves use reverse psychology to tell you what to do. So whenever we say not or no, don't, the word itself is negating itself. So if you tell a child, for instance, don't do this, they always do. They always break the rules, because in that sentence you essentially canceled out the negation. So when we look at the 10 Commandments, it says, do not cheat, do not steal, do not lie. Well, if this has been the foundation of Western society, which it has been, then how come it's produced stealers and liars and fornicators and everything else. Well, we have to take a look at that. And of course, the horns also mean duality, because it's a split path that seems to be distinct. It's good and evil. If you have ever seen the Bandersnatch movie of Black Mirror, they have this same symbol, but it's in reverse, and at the top there's a one path. So it represents one path splitting into two. But of course, you flip that around, and the duality ends up leading to singularity.
Yeah, and that, you see, because then that is what does happen. Like when you see this occult symbol here, that one, more towards the fact of, you see the chain, so the masculine and the feminine are then chained to that duality. Yeah, because of that. So then you are imprisoning the self pretty much in this dual construct. So if you are not AI, then that is what you are doing. You're imprisoning yourself. So then that is that duality. So then with that veneration of Pan, that would lead to a dualistic mindset by default. Amazing.
By default.
By default.
And of course, just because things appear real does not mean they are. What happened at the end of Alice in Wonderland? Alice was fed up the entire time. All she wanted to do was have fun, but everywhere she went, there was always a twist, right? There was always a price to pay for the interesting manifestations she became entangled in. So she ends up at the court with the Queen of Hearts reprimanding her for something she didn't do. I think it was she stole the tarts, which she obviously did not. And at the last moment, she says, "You're all just a pack of cards. You're not even real." And the moment she realized that is when she ascended, or returned back to her original sleeping body. And in the movie, it shows her so excited to be back in her true form. And of course, she's under purple skies. So you mentioned earlier, which was brilliant. I never thought about that. The blue dress, how she's going from the above into the red, red ship, the Queen of Hearts. Yeah. And then above her in the original homeland is the purple or indigo skies.
Well, then that is it. So then we know that is it. And I just wanted to touch on the new Mary Poppins. She is wearing both the red and the blue.
I love that movie. So many great messages.
Mary Poppins, MP. You know, P is for light. I've broken P down as light, because P, you know, is the 16th letter, which breaks down into 7 anyway. And then that's when you have H, because then you have Phoenicians, they use PH, and then H, I said, is the 8th letter for infinity. If you put the two of them together, it kind of you get infinite light, you know. And it's just with the phonetics, and you could use the word photon or a phone, and it's just, you know, everything is there. But like what we're saying here with Mary Poppins, and then also especially with Alice in Wonderland, that with the purple skies, you know, it's all just playing out for us as living souls, like a movie for us, like the greatest love story ever told, you know. So, you know, it's fantastic. So, you know, I'll probably end it around here. I would like to do this again, Devin. I think we could do another one of these.
I would love to do this again, brother.
Let's
Absolutely.
Definitely so.
Yeah, it was great having this conversation, and to anybody listening, thanks for letting us be a part of the time and journey.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, Alkalise to Realize talk show. You can find us on YouTube, Activation of the Philosopher's Stone Agerian Therapy Group. You can find us there also. Devin, where can we find you?
You can find me on my Flat Earth Paradise channel, and I also have another channel, Devin Madgy, where I post a little more personal things, and I also have weekly live streams there, which are quite intimate in nature.
Yeah, very good. And that is coming on really, really well, actually. It's Devin Madgy, isn't it? Which is, I think that's what it is. Coming on fantastic. Yeah. So, brother, Peace, love, and centeredness to you. And I look forward to
Thank you,
speaking.
Fabian. You too.
I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Hi there. I'm currently drinking my own urine. I know. It seems strange, right? That I would pee into a glass and consume my own bodily fluids. But urine therapy is actually one of the most detoxifying and healthful protocols that anybody can incorporate into their lives. And you can even feel the electrical ionizing energy within this fluid. Urine is a natural antibiotic, analgesic, antiseptic, antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal fluid, which, when consumed, floods the immune system and all cells of the body, giving them the ability to regulate all systems. Byproducts of urine generate antibodies against viruses and bacteria within the body, stimulating the immunological mechanisms of defense and preventing the multiplication of cancer cells. Urine balances hormones such as testosterone, estrogen, and growth hormone, and floods endorphins into the nervous system, allowing the body to conserve energy and maintain a balanced mood. Urine is a great way to recycle minerals and vitamins into the body, including calcium, sodium, copper, iodine, magnesium, zinc, vitamins A, B, C, and E. And urine also contains amino acids to maintain muscle mass and feed the body. Urine therapy is known as a beautifying protocol because those who engage in it find themselves looking more vibrant. The growth hormone within the urine allows our body to maintain youthfulness. And the urea within urine, when drinking, helps reconstruct and reproduce wounded cells and organisms within the body. Urine is also anti-parasitic, meaning parasites and even nanotechnology from chemtrails are wiped out through regular urine consumption. The pH of the body is regulated and the digestive system strengthens. This urine has tons of negative ions, and in today's insane climate, we are bombarded with heavy metals, with toxins, and all of this bullshit is positively charged. So, what happens when you're consuming an intensely negatively charged substance? Well, it goes through the body, permeates every bone, every organ, every crevice, and attaches itself to the positively charged ions. This in turn creates a detox mechanism, which is insanely gentle yet powerful. Urine is not a dirty and toxic substance rejected by the body, like modern science tells us. Urine is a byproduct of blood filtration, not waste filtration. It's essentially the purified derivative of the blood itself, formed by the kidneys. Here's how it works. Our blood, full of our personalized nutrition, passes through the liver where toxins are removed. These toxins move on to be released during our bowel movements. But the clean blood which is left then undergoes a filtering process in the kidneys, where excess water, salts, vitamins, minerals, enzymes, and other elements not usable at that time by the body are collected in the form of a purified, sterile solution that is urine. This substance is a personalized tincture produced by our own bodies. It's the very medicine you require every time you pass it. I know. You've been told all your life that this is a waste product. But I assure you, this is a very ancient practice, and if you incorporate it into your day-to-day life, you will start to see immense benefits. We are infinite divine beings, and we produce our own medicine. This is how intelligent our bodies have become structured. We are in the image of God, as it said in the Bible. And therefore, God, or whatever life force is within us, would not equip us without the ability to create our own medicine. This right here is specific to your body, so nobody else's urine can replace your own when it comes to health. Whatever you eat day to day, this substance is exactly what you need to counteract the dis-ease that's going on within your body. And today we are bombarded with health issues, with EMFs, with toxic food, so drinking your urine is a great step in the right direction. Cheers, everybody. Shivambu Shastra is urine therapy proposed by ancient Ayurvedic medicine, used for thousands of years and mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. Even the Bible seems to promote urine therapy. A verse in the book of Proverbs advises, "Drink waters from your own cistern, flowing water from thy own well." In Eastern Europe and Russia, from Jews to Catholics, urine had been used as a folk medicine passed from generation to generation, especially among the poor who didn't have access to expensive herbs. Urine therapy is simple and free. It's the definition of going within to find healing. Our bodies are so intelligent that they produce the very thing it requires every day in order to bring the body into homeostasis and eradicate disease. Urine therapy is not only about drinking urine, but also massaging it into your skin, applying it on acne or any inflamed portions, even wrinkles. Urine enlivens the skin and leaves all areas it's applied to with a glowing radiance. The same way urine cleanses internally, it also cleanses externally. After all, the skin is the biggest organ of the body. So bottoms up, everyone. Drink your urine. Wash in your urine. Put it in your hair. Put it on your skin. This stuff is so magical. And I guarantee you, the pee-pee protocol for dancing detoxification is crucial in this day and age. Take the dive. See how it affects you. Your body might be surprised, and your health will thank you.
We alkalize to realize the body is the temple, water is the source of life. We breathe in life and then we synthesize. This liquid sun will free your glands and begin to decalcify. Peer through your third eye, see through the lies and give your body what it's missing. We dehydrated, and that's the human condition. But when you clean the body and leave the body, you set yourself up to receive the body. See, it's a sharp knife, that's the water of life. It's like a sword cutting parasites down the sides. It takes a certain kind of faith to know that you're divine. And if it comes from urethra, then it's alkaline. We serve in truth, and it don't matter how weird it really gets. It's the linchpin ascended masters to initiates. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. We alkalize to realize. Open your mind and find you had it inside this whole damn time. You had it inside this whole damn time.